Hello, welcome to Devotions. The reading this morning is Joshua 24, 1 to 15, and I've just done a summary of it. Joshua, as he nears the end of his life, wants to ensure that his people are aware of the history of God and what God has achieved for his people. He reminds us of God's kind of love that is freely offered to us, for better or for worse. Joshua encourages us to respect the holy God, the jealous God, the punitive God, as well as the benevolent God. Joshua calls us to live as much as God-centered lifestyle as he did. Joshua chose to fight against the Amalekites. Joshua chose to reject the golden calf. Joshua chose to serve the Lord by serving Moses. Joshua chose to believe God's promise about the promised land. Joshua chose to recognize the leadership of the Lord's army. He chose to surrender to God. Joshua chose faith instead of unbelief. And finally, he chose to reject false gods. What is your story? Are you stuck in the Jordan River? In a place you were not, you wish you were not? Perhaps your Jordan River is an emotional need or a financial need or a mental anxiety, or you are just in a dry spiritual place. We've all experienced this at some stage of our lives. But we need to look for His strategy, His timing, and direction. Leave ourselves open to what life throws at us and deal with it as the reality of life, with Jesus at our side. Like Joshua, what we choose to do in our daily lives, what we choose to focus on, how we choose to treat one another, or control what comes out of our mouths, will determine a good or an iffy outcome. Once we have listened to God's advice, it would be important to remain obedient to His instruction and not go wandering off like a fluffy duckling or a frolicking puppy. We also need to ensure that we don't stay in this barren and dry place for too long without seeking help or counsel. We also face at times an adversary who does not want us to succeed. God's direction will always be better. Joshua reminds us in chapter 1, verse 7 to 9, to be strong and courageous, to not be afraid or discouraged. Dig into what God says in the Word. Do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night. Joshua 1:8. God has unlimited power. He's faithful to His promises and will be on our side. We do need to sometimes get our feet wet. Remember, God instructed them to step into the water and then He parted it. The most used verse in Joshua says, "As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord." My prayer is that this mantra would be true for us all perpetually. Lord, your hand is never waxed short. Please be with anyone today experiencing financial trouble, grief, mental health issues, or a waning spiritual energy. Remember, like Joshua, choose wisely. Amen, and see you soon.